assessed valuation went in the wrong direction, and it cost us $50,000 on the property tax side, $20,000 lost revenue on the EMS side. Total of 70, so basically 318 or 320. That's the good news, bad news type of conversation, because the good news is potentially that could have been higher. When we got the county-wide number of 13.7%, we said, okay, let's just imagine that that's what happened here in Washougal, as well as the average. It was more like $150,000, but it was 50 instead of 150. So the good news is it was 50 instead of 150. The bad news is it was 50 in the wrong direction. So that will change everything moving forward from the 11 estimate into the 12 and the 13 estimate. As you know, that kind of compounds a little bit, so those numbers will be a little higher, but they're not 1.3, 4.5, 1.5, and 1.6 million like they were in July.
So I've got a question for you. With regards to the 12 and 13 estimates for the deficit that continues to grow there, what is the main driving factor, or what are the main driving factors for the increased deficits as we go into the future?
The indexed expenditure growth in our base expenses, employee costs, benefit costs, all create.
You're going to have the employer PERS contribution is currently 5.3. It's going to go to 11, over 11 in 2013. At least that's what the actuary says. The legislature can change that, but that's what a big driver. Medical benefits costs, they forecasted at a 10% increase. In the prior estimate, and to some extent embedded in here, the expectation isn't that staff will not get a wage freeze every year. So there's wage growth both in terms of the step increases as well as cost of living adjustments, at least in the base forecasts that we presented and that are embedded in 12 and 13. So when you have a cost of living adjustment and you have step increases and you have inflationary increases and things like jail costs that are outside of your control, those get passed on. You have to absorb those. So those are the types of things that are in the expense side. On the revenue side, as we experienced in this year, the property tax actually dropped, and at best it'll grow at 1% plus new construction. I don't think it'll go down again next year, although I'm sort of revising my my projections. In another contextual comment for that, they assessed as of January 1st of 2010, so there's a temporal lag between when you're talking about 2011, they're actually setting the value of January 1st of 2010, so you have to keep that in mind. But the revenue growth is typically in the 3 to 4% range, even with good growth in terms of population and economic activity. The expenditure side's in the 4 to 5% range, just from a base standpoint, and that's the structural issue.
Thank you.
So then the next slide we talk about, as I brought up, some of the how the budgets are very lean and very loans. Here are some of the unfunded requests that are not included in the 2011 budget. The building facilities plan update, looking at the facilities to see what needs to be done to upkeep those and keep them working in order. Steamboat landing, dock repairs, halfway boat launch, and then facilities contingency budget, such as looking at the radon issues, or the HVAC system goes down. Some of those larger purchases that could be out there, those would have to be brought forward and approved out of reserves to be paid for, because they're not factored into the budget at all.
And this is in the general street and fire fund, and these are the more prominent unfunded requests, if you would. There's some smaller ones that you can imagine are not going forward in this constrained environment. And maybe a note here is, it's not really an unfunded request type of issue, but we have capital programs. We'll talk about those a little bit later on, but we're continuing to execute our capital programs in the utility funds. So those types of things will continue.
again, we've talked about the replacement funds quite a bit already, but we are proposing 2 replacement funds, again, for the rolling stock and then for IT and technology related, funds. Starting out with seed money of $600,000 from the reserves. And then, the utility funds we are going to include as well. We just don't have those numbers yet. With the rates, since that's built into the rate structure and whatnot, we wanna make sure that FCS agrees with what we're doing and that we're doing that in the right fashion. So we're just leaving that to be determined at this point. But we do expect the upfront seeding from the fund and then the ongoing maintenance payments and the one-time seeding with the ongoing payments to support those schedules of replacing vehicles and technology. And then just a timeline, or not a timeline, but just kind of a snapshot of what we're looking to do for 2011. The initial contribution for the rolling stock from general fund, we're looking at $575 for rolling stock, $25,000 for technology, for the total of the $600,000. The contributions we have built in there at $45,005 for the maintenance and ongoing. Some interest that we expect to earn, and then planned purchases. These are the we need now. They're a liability, we're paying more to keep them than they're worth type situations. For rolling stock, about $403,000, and then computer and technology, we have kind of a ballpark of $5,000. Those aren't set in stone by any means, but that's what we're looking to do. So that gives us ending balances of $220,000 in rolling stock and about $25,000 in technology, and that'll feed into the plan that we have, or that we're going to have in the process of knowing what we're going to replace each year and making sure we have adequate funds in there to do so. So we don't have to go back to reserves, should not have to. But again, as you brought up, there's the bubble that we have to get over first.
I've got a quick question for you about this. As far as, I don't know if this is getting ahead of ourselves here, but as far as this policy of having the ER&R funds out there, I assume that we're going to pass a resolution setting the policy of the council that this is our desire to do this, so that we've got some sort of guidelines that future councils can point back to this resolution and say, these are guidelines that we're following for this fund, rather than just sort of hoping we'll remember this.
Yeah, the depreciation is certainly see that. The initial action of appropriation by ordinance will establish the fund, and that would be your policy articulation in the ordinance, where you would say, we have the fund, and this is the purpose of the fund, here's the initial investment in it. But then we can bring back to you operational policies around that fund as we flesh those out over the next couple of quarters, and you can set those up.
If I understood you correctly, any contingency that arises, major contingency, will be funded from reserves.
Right, we have, in terms of our constraining of the operational budget, looked at line items and what is routine, if that's the right word to use, and have not maintained funds in some of those line items that are just in case the HVA system goes out. And in the past, there's been some of that. And then it's not expended. It's not expended, you come in under budget, it stays in the reserve. Because things are